Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse, and I want to welcome Peter Kerr from Rock Daydream Nation to the show. Today we are looking at the American band the Plimsouls. The band had a hit single titled A Million Miles Away that was featured in the 1983 film Valley Girl, performed by singer, songwriter, guitarist Peter Case, the former frontman of the PowerPop group The Nerves, in Paramount, California in 1978. They recorded 2 full-length albums and an EP and then split up in 1984. Different configurations of the original members have reunited intermittently since. So sit back and relax as Peter and I take a look at the Plimsouls self-titled album from 1981. Peter Kerr, welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse, and how are you tonight?
Great, and how are you, Grant?
Doing great. Everything's just dandy.
Fantastic, fantastic. It's Christmas. Happy Christmas. This is the month of cheer.
It is. I didn't notice that before we went on that you do have the tree up.
Yeah, the tree up. Should be a tree behind you too, coming soon.
No.
I don't know.
I don't know about that. But you know what you could do, Peter? You could put that tree a little closer to the camera.
We could. All right. Well,
I'll put it like right here.
Yeah. All right.
Would that be over here? I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway.
So anyway, how are you tonight? Doing everything doing good?
Good.
Nice to have you.
Good.
Ready to talk some Plimsouls?
Absolutely.
All right. So tonight we're looking at the Plimsouls self-titled debut that was released in 1981 on Planet Records. The album reached 151 on the Billboard charts. So I wouldn't say that was very successful, if you ask me. Produced by Danny Holloway. I don't know who that is. Recorded at Wally Heider Studios in Hollywood, California. Wally Heider's it's way gone. Not there anymore, kids. But the reviews for this record are very good. All Music gave it 4.5 stars out of 5. Trouser Press gave it a good review. In fact, in my research, there's comments already popping up. Peter, in my research, I was really having a hard time trying to find like other reviews on this record, because when this record came out, it essentially just tanked. It was practically unnoticed, and that's the whole thing. These guys also got a record contract on Geffen in like 1983. So I'm not exact. It's kind of sketchy on finding information on these guys.
Yeah.
You know? But this is considered one of those great power pop albums of the era.
It is.
And I thought, when I was throwing it out to the group, of course, you're the only one with us tonight. We are in holiday season, but
yep,
we can always count on Peter Kerr to make a showing.
Well, yeah, I've got to help out, but
right.
Yeah. Thank you for having me on the show, firstly.
Sure.
Look, I think this is probably one of the best bands a lot of people have never heard of.
I agree.
They were right in the vanguard of the power pop era. And I'll give a little bit of context how I heard about them.
Yeah, please
do. Going back to 2013, Australia's power pop, garage rock legends, Hoodoo Gurus, did a curated festival in Sydney at the Enmore Theatre. And the bands that were playing in this curated festival were, in no particular order, Blue Oyster Cult, which was the first ever appearance in Australia. That was 45 Minutes of Bliss that I'll never forget. One of your favorites, Grant.
My favorite.
The Flaming Groovies. They
played. I like them too.
Buzzcocks.
Excellent.
Australia's The Stems, and the first band that played at about midday was the Peter Case Band. So never heard of him. Had a little bit of feedback problems at the start of his set, but he played 30 minutes of just power pop bliss, starting from his original band, because he was in a band called The Nerds, dating back to 1974. And they would be probably best known for writing the song Hanging on the Telephone, which was a hit for Blondie. So they were like a little punk trio or power pop trio that comprised Peter Case, Paul Collins, and Jack Lee. And Paul Collins, you might known to a lot of PowerPop fans for being in a band called The Beat, the US Beat.
Which I must add, that first, well, actually, there's 2 Beat albums, as far as I know. The first album is absolutely brilliant.
Yes.
The second one's just almost as good. And so if anybody, that would be another great show to do, is The Beat.
Absolutely. So there's all a 1 or 2 degrees of separation.
Yeah.
Anyway, went to the merch stand, picked up a Peter Case album. He's quite prolific. He does a lot of albums to this day, a lot in the what I would call the Americana roots type music, country, blues, brilliant. Went back to the back catalogue, went to a record fair about a year later, and I picked up this little beauty, which is the Plimsouls debut, and it just popped out. The production is sparkly, the songs, it's just jangle rock bliss. Each song is a gem, and I would put this against. Look, I'll even be out there. I'd put this against the Knack or even Cheap Trick or the Cars if you want to put them in the PowerPop. They're one of the best bands that you probably never heard of, and so I went back into more of their catalogue. So they had the follow up on Geffen, not quite as good. It's a bit more polished, this production, but Everywhere at Once. I think that's the second album. Got a single, and they've put out a lot of live albums post The Demise. So this one you can see on the corner of the screen. That's great. And as a live entity, they're sort of rowdy, rambunctious, but a lot of energy. Fantastic. Probably even better live than what you hear on the album. There's another one, Beach Town Confidential. Peter Case, solo artist. So when they were defunct around the mid '80s, he had a solo contract with Geffen, and that was his first album, Peter Case. I recommend this. This is a really good album. And then I think in the late '80s, he put out this album. I'll read it out because I can't remember it. The Man with the Blue, Postmodern, Fragmented, Neo-Traditionalist Guitar. Gee, try remembering that. There you go, Peter Case. That's kind of country. So I think he was going down a country Nashville, again, Americana route. There's a whole other swag of albums and CDs that I've got, but I just dragged just a small bunch, and I love them. I think they're great.
Quick question, that Plimsouls album, what label did that come out on? Is that an Australian pressing, or is that a domestic US? What is that?
This is the US pressing, and it's on the Planet label.
Okay. You know what? After all these years where I've went through bins and I've looked for records, I have never seen that record ever. How did you end up getting that?
Well, yeah, it was.
I mean, it is kind of rare because it really just
in Australia, I've seen it a couple of times in used record stores in the wild. I've seen this a lot more.
Yeah,
because
that's
this was
around
on the Geffen label, and a lot with a cutout. I've seen this about 3 times in the wild, and I've also got it on CD. So
yeah, I've got the Plimsouls Plus. It's got the EP on here too that came out before. This is kind of expensive to pick up now. It's not cheap. I think I got this off of Discogs or something, because if anyone's been following this, we've been trying to do this show for I don't know. This was planned 4 or 5 months ago.
Yeah.
And we're just now getting around doing it. Ernestus says in California, they played often. Yes. A friend of mine on Facebook, she said that they played for her senior high school prom in '83 out in California.
That's fantastic. I love hearing stories.
Could you imagine that? The Plimsouls playing your high school prom? That would be so great. But that's what they did, that kind of stuff out there.
They were the kings of LA. So they used to have a circuit. They'd play the Whiskey A Go Go, all those Sunset Strip bands. So just putting a little bit of a time space for the viewers. So the Plimsouls started in 1978. And what happened in 1978? There was a band that we know very well, and we interviewed the bass player called the
You
Knack,
did.
and they absolutely exploded. So off the back of that self-titled debut of the Knack, the Plimsouls got a contract. But unfortunately, the fortunes of the Plimsoul mirrored the Knack, because it was all over for the Knack within 7 or 8 months, and unfortunately that put a kind of a nail in the coffin for the Plimsouls on a commercial basis.
And think about other bands that were out there. 2020. Well, the Shoes were around, but I don't know if they were really on that scene. What other power pop bands? I'm just trying to think were on that. 2020.
The Romantics.
But they carried on though. They had like a resurgence in like
they
1980s.
Yeah. Did they go new wave? Because there was a little bit of an anti-power pop with the Knack after that whole sort of Nuke the Knack. There was a backlash. So a lot of those bands probably had to reinvent themselves and go, hey, we're not power pop, we're new wave. And that's where, if you look at the Romantics, they went for a slightly different sound and a slightly different image, and went down that wheelhouse. But Plimsouls, you just listen to their songs. It's just it's classic rock. Their influences are the Who, the Kinks, the Beatles, the Stones.
I wrote that down
Peter Case, and can't go wrong.
Who else I hear in this band? Of course, you do hear a lot of, there's horns on it. There is some soul. I mean, it's just a tad bit of soul, but I hear, and I don't know if it's ever been documented, but I hear a lot of Bobby Fuller 4 on here, to be quite honest. Especially the song In This Town. It's kind of jangly, the harmonies, the riff. It's very Bobby Fuller. I hear that. But you can listen to the Plimsouls and you can tell it's very rooted in the 1960s. Of course, power pop is rooted in the 1960s, for crying out loud.
Absolutely. I hear John Lennon. I can hear even live.
Yeah.
When, I mean, if the Beatles were playing that sort of power pop, which was modernized late 70s, early 80s, I could hear him playing this sort of music. So,
Rich, if you can get the CD, the EP is on here. It's probably a lot cheaper than finding the vinyl. Of course, I don't know if you can find the EP in Australia. I've never seen the EP other than, well, here's what it looks like. I've never seen one.
No.
Rich said, I got a hold of the Second Beat album the other day. It's, oh my God. Rich, the Second Beat album is great. Highly recommended. In fact, I'm going to make Peter do an episode with me down the road about the Beat.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Write that down. I don't want to forget. Somebody write this down to remind me, because I don't want to forget, because it's so great. And I just like the Plimsouls, I think the Beat should get more recognition, because you didn't think anybody really knew who the Plimsouls were. No one knows who the Beat is.
Yeah. And the Beat had to contend. There was another band in the UK that were a ska band, and they had to sort of call themselves the English Beat. I even think they might have done a co-headlining tour, the UK Beat and the Beat, but that's another tangent.
Maybe they did. I think that would be great.
Yeah.
Let's see, Ernesto. I heard them on the soundtrack, The Last American Virgin. Well, I'll be darned.
They've been on a few soundtracks, but everyone sort of reminisces about Valley Girl, and who doesn't like Valley Girl? I think it's a great film.
Funny we even mentioned that. I went and saw that clip with the Plimsouls up on stage and they're getting ready to play.
Yeah.
God, it makes me want to watch that movie again. I haven't seen that movie in years.
It's I think it's Nicolas Cage at his finest. He's just so goofy and engaging, and it's a movie that ages well. I don't know if it did super business in the day. You're being in America, you probably know more than me. But
it came out in '83. I don't remember what. I think it did pretty well though.
Yeah,
but the soundtrack, it's a cult movie, but the soundtrack is like perfection
and rare. Because at my local record store, a mint condition, it was like $200. You can't get that on vinyl, like first pressing.
I'm not even sure it ever came out on CD. But it's a great soundtrack.
Yeah.
Rich says 2020 made 2 really great albums. Yes, they did. Are you familiar with 2020, Peter Kerr?
No, not really.
Okay.
No.
Great.
Honest.
Another one. I mean, if you like the Plimsouls and the Knack, look for 2020. And the other band I like is Shoes. That's a great band. Also played the Starwood
I've heard of the
old
Starwood.
location here in California. Oh my God. $300 for the EP. Ugh.
Yeah.
I'll be tuned into the beat. I'll be tuned into the beat episode. Like I said, the very best power pop album ever. Well,
Yeah.
Stephen Schneeve, we do that beat episode. I may want you on here. Yeah, the soundtrack's really great. Saw the Plimsouls live the same week the single Million Miles Away came out on their own label. See, they re-recorded that for Geffen. I don't know, you might have heard it, Peter. I have not heard the original version of that track.
Yeah, I have. It's a little bit rawer. I think the album, the second album, was quite polished, and that probably takes away of it. But the songwriting is still it's still up there.
See, I hate to say this, but until we were talking about doing this show, and I can't remember how I decided to do the Plimsouls, for crying out loud. I had not heard this record, and I have only heard A Million Miles Away.
Yeah.
But that's what this show's about, throwing stuff out there that we might not have heard. You know, the idea was to throw it out to the group and have them come back.
Absolutely. How do you think it holds up? Because you're a power pop fan.
I think
upper echelon.
All right, I will give you my review. I would say, holy crap! The more I've said this with other CDs or albums before, but I think this one, the more you play it, the more it takes hold. I think I would, on a scale from 1 to 10, in the power pop genre, considering when it came out, 1981, I would probably give this a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I'd agree with you.
Or maybe a 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah, it's pretty healthy. Look, there's the song list there. They even do a cover of an Easy Beats. You've heard of the Easy Beats, Stevie, right? You know, George.
George
Rich,
I'm sure, has heard.
Women. That was the Easy Beats song. But the big hit off this album was Hush Hush. Some other great songs. Lost Time Now. It's just timeless. And that's the thing about power pop. It's timeless. It's just a sound that does not date, because we're here in 2022, and to me it sounds current, because there's always power pop, there's always garage rock, because garage rock is quite only 1 degree of separation, and you can hear a lot of bands that I see that are not too far out of the wheelhouse of this band. So it just sounds fresh.
I mean, if I listen to the Knack, listen to the first 3 Knack albums. The 4th Knack album sounds dated because it came out 91 or something, and it's okay.
Oh, what have I got here? I have to put it up for you.
Yeah.
I know you go.
That's my favorite Knack album.
Yeah.
Is that the one? Is that which version is that? The Capitol one with the bonus tracks?
No, it's not.
Or is that the Zen record one?
The Zen record one.
I've got that, and I've got the Capitol one with.
You'll be taking that on the boat with you and with the pen.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But that. All right. This is a great conversation. But anybody who likes the Knack and power pop, and you don't know Round Trip, look, Stephen Schnee, my favorite album. Holy crap! Plimsouls' debut is much more than power pop. There's a huge dollop of R&B. Yes, that's what I was saying. I hear a lot of like Motown and R&B. Round Trip, my favorite album.
Another thing I want to bring up about this band is you had Peter Case, but you also had Dave Pahoa on bass, Louis Ramirez on drums, and Eddie Munans on guitar. They were all kind of Hispanic. So this was a very multicultural band and quite groundbreaking. Peter Case was the only sort of Anglo or American in the band. So There's been different lineups, but I really think that the playing on this album is really does hit the sweet spot. It's beautifully played.
On that second album, did it have the same lineup as the first album, or were there any lineup changes?
I don't think so, but
Okay.
our viewers will correct. I'm not an expert, but I'm having a look. Don't think so. I don't think there was. Anyway, that's it's nice.
See, now I'm gonna have to get that because I don't have that.
Yeah.
Because now I'm on a Plimsouls kick now.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying.
Now, the producer or their manager was Danny Holloway, who you said you didn't know much about. I read his CV, and apparently he produced Bob Marley, Jimmy Cliff, and he was right in the Island Records fold.
Okay.
So this guy is got a very sort of unusual career. He was a writer for NME magazine. He is now currently a DJ. He travels the world looking for rare records around Africa, South America. He sounds like he's got a lot of bows to his armory. But for this particular period, just before he picked the Plimsouls and produced their album, became their manager, he was a producer at Island Records in the UK and recorded a lot of, Jimmy Cliff and Bob Marley.
Well, recording a Plimsouls is a bit different than that, but maybe not that far of a stretch. Well, I think it's fine production. I don't have any problem with the production at all. It, like you said, this could have been released yesterday. And in fact, it was a great point that you had about a lot of the PowerPop records could have been released yesterday.
Yeah.
Listen to the first Knack album. I mean, it could have, there's nothing on there that really dates it as far as production. There's no gimmicks. It's just them playing live in the studio is what it is.
Oh, it's timeless. And Rich, I love the stems. So
I don't know the stems.
Oh, you've got to listen to them. They're brilliant. They're just love the stems. There was a real sort of power pop, a lot of power pop bands in Australia, and I think one of the most famous ones, and Rich will probably heard of these, is the Sunny Boys. Have you ever heard of them? No. They are absolutely legendary in Australia. A couple of their first two albums are just iconic status. They're recently just doing a farewell tour, but I think maybe for a future show, check them out. They are just fantastic. But yeah, there's a whole rich vein of Australian acts, and I don't know if they were listening to the Plimsouls, but I think they were more listening to what was happening out of the UK. And let's face it, power pop was very much UK.
Yeah.
The Who, the Kinks, Rolling Stones, the Beatles.
I would say that, well, the Beatles definitely had power pop tendencies, but I think a lot of the power pop came from the Who, like 1966, 67 Who. I mean, it is so power pop.
Yeah. Incredible. And it crosses over into new wave because when you listen to you like B-52s?
I love the B-52s.
Yeah, even their first two albums, you hear a lot of power pop in that. It's not just new wave, but like something like Rock Lobster, just the guitar sound, it's all power pop.
Yeah, it's almost surfy to some degree. What was I read? God, I made a note here. Oh yeah, the song "Woman." I've made a note. It's very gritty, very 60s feel. And that song, how you were mentioning new wave, that song to me on this record seems very post-punk to some degree. I think this record does have tendencies. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because we're still dealing, even though this is power pop, this could still be considered new wave or post-punk.
Well, exactly. So look at this. Look how they're styled. So if they had, colored hair and Gary Newman clothes, this would have been a big hit.
I mean, look at that cover. That's Rolling Stones. What 12 by 5, isn't it? Pretty much. Yes. If you look at Stones 12 by 5, not much different, is it? No. I don't know. We're hitting man, you are both speaking my language. We're hitting a home run with Stephen Schnee tonight. Was in the oh, see, there's so many comments. Okay, now we're caught up.
Yeah.
But
No.
are there any particular tracks on this record that you think stand out?
Oh, Hush Hush,
Mhm.
Now, and Woman is probably my my 3 standout tracks.
I think
Side one,
I like Now.
yep,
I like In This Town too, and I do like
side one's great. I mean, I know you're big
mhm,
on track listing, but I think it's track listed beautifully. But
I
side
think
one, I've got a slight preference.
mhm.
Lost Time Now, Is This Town, 0 Hour, and Women. I think it's killer, 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 killer. There's not much filler in this album.
I don't
It's
know.
really strong. And the production's great.
Yeah, well,
Just
it's timeless.
yeah,
0 Hour, I like. Did you ever notice that drum intro is very My Sharona? I think that might be just a coincidence, or could be of the time period. But then the track after it has that intro, it goes into something totally different. I
yeah,
thought it's kind of like the Romantics meet Elvis Costello. It's got that keyboard sound. That keyboard part's very early Elvis Costello. You can hear all kinds of stuff in here. You can hear a lot of influences in this music. You know,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
all I can say is if you can find it, try to
That's the thing.
locate a copy of it. But geez,
It's a bit difficult. So I think your viewers, you've got to check out Peter Case because he still pushes out lots of albums.
Mhm.
If you like that Americana blues, he's still around, traveling. He's a phenomenal artist. I think he actually got recently nominated for a Grammy. But I I would love them to do a reunion, but there was a bit of acrimony. There was a tour that they did between Paul Collins and Peter Case, I think
Mm.
in about 10 years ago, where they had co-headlining tours where it was the Beat and the Plimsouls, and they might have had a crossover band. And I
Yeah,
think
that would
three
have been
quarters of the
great.
way, yeah, 3/4 of the way through, Paul Collins left it. So there was a bit of acrimony between those two.
Stephen Shee, there's not many of us who discuss PowerPop and the VC. So of course I'm way into this discussion. They don't talk about PowerPop in the VC, really? Hmm. Yeah, that vinyl community is peculiar
Yeah,
bunch.
Peter Case has definitely toured Australia. He was on the 2013 with the Dig It Up, the Hoodoo Gurus Invitational. So did a 30-minute set. I would have loved it if he could do more. I've actually messaged him on Facebook when you're coming out to Australia, and he said,
Mhm.
"Send me the money."
See, a lot of these
He'd love
artists,
to come out.
it was like I saw an interview with what's his name from Wasp, Blackie Lawless, and someone I don't know when this interview is from,
Yeah,
but they said when you come to the States, of course he's here now, the band's here now, but he said show me the money and we'll come to the United States. We'll
yeah.
tour if someone throws us some money. That's what it is with a lot of these acts. Just got to
What
get an
what
offer out there.
what would happen, Grant, is
Mhm.
he would come out to Australia and maybe he'd have a pickup band over here. That's what a lot of artists will do because it's not
Mhm.
economical for them to bring their band over. Like, for example, Glenn Hughes from Deep Purple on, I think, his second tour, he didn't bring his band from America, but
Mhm.
he handpicked musicians in Australia as pickup bands. So that's the economics. And that's how I think Peter Case would do if he came over.
Paul Collins did not leave the tour. He was booted.
All right, I was being kind. I was going to say that, but yeah,
So
that's what
what
I read.
happened?
Yeah,
Do we know what the story is?
I don't know, Stephen. Do you know?
Stephen Schnee,
Give us
come
the
on.
dirt. Yeah.
Give us the dirt if you know it.
Well, I'm like you, Grant. Like, there's not much. I'm sure there's a really good story about this band, and
Mhm.
I'm an outsider coming in because I've only
I
been into
can't
this
find
band like
anything.
5, 6 years. But there's I'm learning more over time, but I'm sure that there's somebody out there watching that could fill in the gaps because I'd like to know more about them.
So let me ask you this. I've given the record a 9 out of 10 or a 4.5 out of 5. What would you rate this record?
9 out of 10.
9. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what would you give Get the Knack? I'm just curious. We've never really had a Knack. I know you did a Knack show early on. It's been a long time.
I
But
did.
what
I did.
Did you rank that?
I wouldn't give it a 10. I'd give it a 9 as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Would you give? What would you give? Get the Knack?
Oh, 10. It's one of my
10.
favorite albums of all time.
Yeah.
When I heard that record when it came out,
yeah,
it was like, I've said this before, it's like one of those moments where the sea parts, the heavens open up. Because I'd never heard anything like My Sharona. Well, the first thing that I thought was a kid, because I was a big Beatles fan, and I heard My Sharona, and Get Me Out, and I thought, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's like, it's almost like early Who. Oh, a 10. That's my favorite. But I think they're,
And this one, what would you give that one?
A 10.
No, you give it an 11.
Probably.
If you could one more mark.
Well, I do want to say one thing while you held up Round Trip. If you can get the CDs of those that are out, the Zen Records version, which Peter has, was the one that Doug Feiger put out. Sounds really good. The sound quality is excellent. There's no bonus tracks on it, but it sounds great. If you can't find that, Capitol did do a reissue, but a lot of the mastering on it's quite big brick wall. But the bonus tracks on those Knack CDs are killer. Highly recommend any of those Capitol reissues. This I wish would get another release. Someone, I don't remember who it was before, but they said you can't find this on streaming services at all.
Yeah, well, there's plenty of stuff on YouTube. You can see them in their live glory. There's a few bootlegs, even on some rock shows. Hey, Grant, I was going to ask you, this Plimsouls album, was this an original
gold
Geffen?
Mine? Yeah. Or is it a gold mine?
Yeah.
Does it say Geffen Gold Mine on it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's like an original, is it?
No, that's the reissue of it.
All right. Okay.
But still, Geffen did a whole gold mine series of like stuff. He actually put out the first Rick Ocasek album like that. And that's the only other time other than the remaster that came out here a couple years ago. Had it ever been on CD, but it came out in that weird Geffen Gold Mine. Same with the Eric Carmen album that came out in the 80s. It came out on Geffen Gold Mine. It's weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
Paul Collins released an autobiography a few years ago.
Right.
Oh, Ronnie Barnett, the Muffs, and I interviewed him about it for one of my shows on my YouTube channel.
Right. Holy okay. Crap. We'll have to. Stephen, I will check that out.
Rich, though, I wish I was enthusiastic about the Knack as most others are, but the silly lyrics always ruin it for me. But I like
the lyrics. The lyrics get brought up a few times, and Prescott had an interesting take on it, didn't he? But I don't know.
He did. And for you guys who don't know, because we did this how many months ago, Peter? Peter and I had
about 5-6 months ago.
Yeah. Peter and I did an interview with Prescott Niles of the Knack. So you can find that interview over on his channel and my channel. We both shared it. And you might want to check it out. We talked to Prescott for what? Hour and a half?
2 hours? He could have done 3 hours.
He would have kept going. What a great guy.
Engaging guest.
How enjoyable was that?
I mean, this guy he's telling stories about Woodstock, Paul McCartney, George Harrison. I don't know Paul McCartney, but it was definitely George Harrison. And if you want to know just the story about making the Knack,
Thought the Knack got better with each album up to Round Trip.
I agree with you, Stephen. I'm contrarian because I really like that, but the little girls understand.
I love that too.
Hammered. Yeah.
All those they were playing all those songs live.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all their sets.
Yeah. Prescott didn't like that album too much, but I was it's a good album.
And I like Zoom a lot. Quite a bit.
Yeah.
Did I tell you that though, Peter? I saw them on the Zoom tour. I must have told you.
Yes, you did. And there was only
1998,
about 15 people in the audience or
15
something.
people. It was at the Agora up in Cleveland, Ohio. There were
Yeah.
probably 15 or 20 people in the audience. Terry Bozzio was the drummer. We were right there in front of Doug.
Yeah.
I mean, we could have reached out and touched Doug. Terry Bozzio is right there. And they
Yeah.
were, well, unbelievable. Because, you know,
Yeah.
Burton is such a great player. What more can we say?
I know. Just one question. So
Go
you're
ahead.
going on a tour, like a boat cruise, where they've
Going
got
on
all
the
these
80s cruise in March.
80s cruise. Have you confirmed who's in the lineup at the NAC?
The NAC had some kind of dispute. They couldn't get somehow, I don't know if it's some kind of contract. I don't know, but the NAC's not going to be on it.
They're a dropout. Oh,
They
no.
dropped out.
Okay.
They announced it and then they pulled them. I don't know who's replacing them on the cruise, but I was really looking forward to, because I was going to talk to Prescott and say, "Hey, Prescott," but whatever.
Yeah.
Jack Lee is still alive but not active. There's a CD available that includes the first albums. The second one is Not Too Hot. I've never heard any of his stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Stephen. All right, Peter, you got anything more to add?
Well, I've got a question for you. So, why do you think this album? Do you think it was the NAC, the failure of the NAC's album that killed their career?
I was reading about that, and that was one of the theories. But if that was the case, why would these guys get picked up by Geffen? Was it the Valley Girl soundtrack that maybe did it? Because you would have thought by then this album was a complete failure. Who would sign them? I don't know. I could see that happening because 2020 pretty much dropped out of sight. That pretty much just killed that whole power pop genre. Maybe that was part of it, but still these guys persevered and they got in a contract with Geffen. So I couldn't find any information on it, and I don't know.
Yeah. Well, viewers, let us know.
Yeah, put a comment if you know.
Look, my final comments is I think this is probably one of the best bands most people have never heard of. Do yourself a favor, check it out. I think it's brilliant.
Rich says 2020 said in an interview the NAC killed the power pop momentum. Well, maybe they did. That could be it, but it's amazing these guys got signed. Does anybody know the scoop on that?
Yes.
Really? I did not know that. That was a big hit.
Yes. One of Jack Lee's solo bands after the Nerves. Nerves, viewers, you've got to check them out. They're great. I think they put out a greatest hits or a discography,
I've got it.
like all that. It's great.
It's great.
Really raw.
I might like it a tad better than the Plimsouls. I don't want to say that in front of. That's just between you and me, Peter. I might like the Nerves just a little bit better.
Oh, well, there you go.
Maybe just a tad. But I can't say I like it better than the Beat. I really love that Beat album.
Yeah.
Holy mackerel.
Do you like it better than the Raspberries?
Well, yes, probably. But the peak of what's on the Raspberries, those Eric Carmen tracks, holy mackerel. If you just pick all the Eric Carmen stuff off of it, nothing against the rest of the band.
Yeah.
We were talking about this on the Raspberry show. Eric Carmen stood above all these other guys. They were all bitching because they weren't all getting an equal shake, and everybody was looking at Eric Carmen going, "Oh my God,"
Yeah.
But his stuff stood above everybody else's. I mean, it's not like those other gentlemen were bad. They just weren't at his level. And he was just like a musical prodigy. He could just, But man, that Raspberry stuff, there's some brilliant stuff on those records.
Yeah. I think that had more of an impact in America than Australia. We know of them, but I don't think they were as huge, over here than there.
Right. But I don't know. You think we covered it?
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
Well, thank you for that.
Well, we're giving
lunchtime for me, a bit of Plimsouls.
Rich,
Viewers.
I'm a Shoes fan, Grant, as well. Love the Black Vinyl Shoes album. I've got something here. Let me pull some. I got one minute. I'll show you something.
All right, cool.
If I can find it.
He's looking through his million CDs and albums or something. It always happens.
I was going to say, I can't find it. It's buried. Esoteric did a shoes box set that's got it's got like the first 4 albums on one box. And then the second box has like the next 4 or whatever. It sounds really good. And I think you can still get it. But if you like PowerPop as well, man, those shoes albums are great. But I don't know. I was going to do show and tell, but it was a lot of work.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ernesto. Nice seeing you here tonight. Yeah. So anyway, you got anything else for me, Peter? Or we can wrap this one up?
I think we can. I'll share this with Peter Case and the Peter Case fan book and Facebook. Yeah, we might get a message from Peter, but check out Peter Case, check out the Plimsouls, check out the Nerds. You can't do wrong. I think they're wrong. High quality.
It's a fabulous record. Any of those in that family of bands, you can't go wrong with.
Absolutely.
I put together a shoes comp on Real Gone Music and wrote. Really? I didn't.
You got to get him on your show. This guy.
Holy
Steven.
crap! No, we're gonna get Steven on. We're gonna do the beat.
Yep.
I'm gonna try to get Steven on. I didn't know you wrote the liner notes. Do you have any compilations on Real Gone Music, Peter?
No.
It's some great stuff. They have a couple of Cheap Trick comps that deal with like the epic years. There's like 3 different ones. It's got a lot of soundtrack songs because a lot of those Cheap Trick soundtrack songs never made it on CD or anything.
Yeah, like Up the Creek and all that. I've got the box set. The one that Sex and Cheap Trick. I think that's got a lot of it on it.
It's got a lot of it. Yeah. You can find the shoes interviews on my channel.
Yeah. Nothing like a bit of cross promotion. I love it.
I love it. All right, Rich.
Yes, he does.
I will check out the Stems and the Sunny Boys.
Sunny Boys, there you go.
We might want to do a show on that. Because
you'll love them.
My first impressions. Because I like I said, I love doing these shows, learning about bands that I have never heard about. That's part of doing this whole channel and having everybody all communicate and having guests. I would never have heard of the Stems or the Sunny Boys if it wasn't for everyone here. So, missed the stream. David H., you're gonna have to check out this episode. I've got that twofer. Well, I'm gonna have to check out your liner notes because I didn't realize that was you. Wow, this has become quite a show. I hate talking about my own stuff, but PowerPop folks are hard to find. Well, Steven, there's going to be more PowerPop content because this is a series. So I'll be in contact. Got one album by the Plimsouls. Good band.
Yeah.
Don't miss my starting over episode. I won't. Rich is going to be on Raspberry starting over.
Right.
Oh, there's all
Very
kinds.
Good.
You know what, kids? There's so much great content on my channel and on Rock Daydream Nation. So if you haven't seen Peter Kerr's channel, the link's down below. Please go to his channel, subscribe. Check out our interview with Prescott Niles.
Yes, it's it goes for 1 hour, 50 minutes, but it's really worth it. Maybe just
watch
it in installments. He's an engaging guest.
Right. So there you go.
Thank you, Grant.
Thank you, Peter. This is always a pleasure. Stephen Schnee is on Facebook. Well, I will be in contact with you, Mr. Schnee. All right. Well, I want to wish everybody a good night, and everybody, oh my God, such great conversation. Thanks for the comments. And like I said, check out Peter's channel, and we're going to wind this dog up. So, all right, everybody, good night, and take care.